Still tearing away. That lioness is really enjoying that. Still just got a little bit of moisture on the lens there.
Yeah, it's on the inside.
And it's unfortunately inevitable. It will disappear shortly, I'm sure. Pat in Tampa would like to know if animals in the bush age similarly to animals back home, like dogs or cats. And I think she mentioned that 1 dog year is equivalent to 7 human years. To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't know. 1 human year, 7 dogs, sorry. And I don't know. To be honest, I don't know how they work that out. I've always found that very confusing. I think animals just have shorter lifespans than people do. Lions, for example, have a much shorter lifespan. A lioness like this could possibly live to the age of about, on average, between 13 to 15 years. And a big male lion, on average, is about 10 to 12 years. Now, I'm not too sure if that's an equivalent to human years or not. I don't think so. Like I say, I think it's possibly just different animals have different lifespans. But again, I am not an expert on that. I don't know how they measure it or how they gauge it.
Right, I need to open up the lens to get away this fog. I'm going to have to just do it.
Okay, so while Brian is quickly going to fix this lens for us, let's go across to James and get an update from him.
Hello everybody. I'm afraid we have found no tracks of these leopards. I'm not sure where the reports came from. While I would completely accept that I had missed them coming across, I don't accept that me and Lex and another chap who just drove past could also have missed them. So I'm really not sure what those reports were. Anyway, I don't think there's any Karula at the moment. We might be lucky. We're going to take a road down towards Treehouse Dam. We'll go and have a look there. And then I think we're going to head across to Arathusa and see if there isn't anything over there. Marvellous that Byron has got those lions. And always a stopgap now we can go to at any stage. Brilliant stuff. Not sure who they are. I wonder, do they look like Nkuhuma lionesses to you, or maybe Styx lionesses? That's quite interesting because... No, they are Nkuhumas, it says Kirsten. Marvellous. Okay, good. Good to know. So where the other 3 is the question. One's on Torchwood. One is probably knocking about Buffelshoek Dam. Where's the other? It's all rather mysterious. Lex also did have tracks of wild dogs heading down south into Little Gowrie. So just about when I was talking to you, he was finding tracks, and they were going along that main road that we were on, and unfortunately they did go south from there, which is a little bit sad. But it is the way of things. They do roam so very widely, the wild dogs. Otherwise, David and I have seen a buffalo, a living one, unlike the one you've seen today, which is dead. And we also saw a waterbuck. Well, I saw it. I'm not sure that David did. David's face is so trussed up with various warming implements that it wouldn't surprise me if he was entirely blind to the day going on around him. That was not quite that he said there, through 4 layers. Hello Karen in Tanzania, you've got me into my grey area again. You've said, do we interfere if an endangered animal is being harmed by other animals. So you know that we would probably interfere, for example, if a wild dog was caught in a snare, or if we thought we could help its injury being because it's endangered. But you say, would we do that with an animal that was being hurt by another animal? In theory, no. In theory, no, we'd let things ride. In practice, however, I think it's quite difficult to let things ride, to be honest. And I would find it certainly extremely difficult were I to come across some lions or something like that. And if I was to find them about to they were sneaking up on a cheetah or a wild dog, I would find it extremely difficult not to clap my hands and make a noise. And does that do any harm? No, probably not. I don't know. Is it particular? I don't know. It's where that grey area is. So in theory, we come into this area and we try and have no effect at all. We just observe what's going on around us. But by our very nature of being here, we are interfering. We're here. We are watching. We're driving around in a vehicle. We've created roads. We've created dams. We've created artificial water points. We put up lodges, and we're around. When we go into a sighting, the animals, the nature of the situation is irrevocably changed by our being there in a big vehicle. Unless you can view animals from 3 kilometers up without them having any idea that you're there, it's impossible not to have an effect. So you can't really say when you're looking at an animal whether or not your being there has affected whether or not they would be harmed. So yeah, Karen, is that grey area. I would say yes. For an endangered species, almost certainly we would try and interfere. But it's a lovely topic, that, and one that has changed. My views on it have changed completely over the years. When I came into here, I was such a purist. When I started in this area, I thought you shouldn't do any land management, you shouldn't have any artificial water, you shouldn't bush clear the bush, you shouldn't be interfering at all. If something gets injured, you let it go. And I would have been scandalized at myself saying, ooh, no, these are civets. Civet tracks, I'm afraid, not baby leopards. I would have been scandalized at myself saying, yes, I might interfere. I don't know. I think it's very personal. And the Sabi Sands, as much as it's beautiful, to describe it as a wilderness, I think, is probably a little bit of a stretch, simply because there's so much human activity here. And while it's still a magnificent area, the creatures are amazing. I think they have a very good, comfortable life. It is a conservation hotspot. I think to describe it as a wilderness is a stretch, and therefore to say that, well, we shouldn't have any effect is a bit ridiculous, given how much effect we're obviously having. No, I don't see any further tracks. I think we're going to head across to Arathusa. While we do that, let's go back to Byron and his lions.
We have managed to clean our lens, and the lioness that was feeding stood up and just went and lay down, and now the other one has got up and looks like she might start feeding. But look how full that belly is. Incredible. They really, really have had a lot of meat from this buffalo calf. These lionesses, I assume, will stay here the whole day. Don't think they will leave, but most likely finish this buffalo calf by this evening. The lions can eat a lot of meat. There's a potential chance they may still be here tomorrow morning, because there is so much food there for them. But you never know. They could have hyena coming into the area. There's a lot of hyena activity around here. And if these lionesses are really outnumbered by hyena, they'll probably move off and try and avoid any confrontation. If there was a big male around, from what I've seen in the past, hyena generally keep their distance. They don't like those big males because they can do some serious damage and have killed a number of hyena in the past. Look at that female also using her carnassial shear. So Chris from Olympia has asked us, do the lions digest the bones that they feed on, or do they spit them out? They definitely digest the bones. The larger bones, Chris, they won't necessarily feed on because those are obviously just too big. But the smaller bones, especially the rib bones and that, they will crunch right through those and they will feed on them. Also, the lions get a lot of nutrients from those bones, the marrow which is inside, and also the calcium and the phosphorus from the bones is good for these animals. So they do digest all of that, and occasionally, and you see it a lot with hyena. Hyena really feed on a lot of bone, and because of that high calcium and phosphorus content, the dung of hyena turns white very quickly after a few days. And it's because of those nutrients in there from the bone. Lions, it may occur, but not as quickly and not as much as hyena dung. But yes, they do digest the bone. This lioness is now resting really nicely, full belly, very happy. I can hear some hyena in the distance. It was just a hyena call, but quite far from here. And Cheetah from India has asked if the loss of canines in lions, as I mentioned earlier, I have seen canines get broken off, especially the older they get. And Cheetah has asked, with the loss of canines, will that potentially cause them to starve because they're unable to hunt, or does it affect them? In my experience and what I've seen, it doesn't affect them as much. With broken canines and that, there's always still one or two around that they'll be able to use within their mouth. And as we've been seeing, they use the back teeth far more to feed. So the loss of canines, it does help a bit with hunting and tearing open carcasses, but it won't cause them to die of starvation at all. And generally we also need to remember, lions are pride animals. They're very social, so there's always other lions to help with the hunt, and that will then in turn help them to be able to feed. So with the loss of one or two, it shouldn't cause a problem at all. As the other lioness stood up a few minutes ago, we saw there's still quite a bit of blood on her paws. So this is definitely a fresh kill from, I don't know if you can see it through there a little bit, those paws are still quite moist. So a fresh kill from last night, maybe even early this morning. But judging by the size of those bellies, they've been feeding for a while. This is so great. You know, yesterday it was the first time I saw lions on Djuma, and now to see these two lions this morning with a kill is fantastic. So Sandy in Missouri would like to know, what time of year is the best time to visit and what time is the worst time to visit? So Sandy, I don't think there's a good or bad time to visit for a safari. You can visit any time of the year. I personally really enjoy I mentioned this morning, winter for me is lovely in the bush, but I enjoy their secret seasons, we call them. So kind of April, May in southern Africa is very nice, and August, September, those 2 months are quite popular too. But as I said, each season has got something to offer. In the winter, you've got these beautiful colors, cool temperatures, not as many bugs around. Summer, however, you've got the lush green vegetation, a lot more water around. Animals, most of the animals also having a lot of young that time of the year, and a lot more bird life. You get a lot of migrants coming back for the summer. So each season has got its benefit. So I think you should probably visit any time, but maybe try both seasons and see which you prefer. I think that's the most important thing. It all depends what you prefer. Shamson has just asked about hyena and if they would challenge 2 lionesses for the kill. I mentioned earlier that I think if a number of hyena came in, and because there is such a high hyena concentration in this area, if the hyena outnumber the lionesses quite a bit, yes, they will challenge the lionesses, and I have seen lionesses being chased off of a kill by a clan of hyena. If there was a male in the area, I think the chances of that happening are definitely far less, because a big male lion won't take nonsense from a hyena, and he'll probably stand up and challenge them far more than these lionesses would. And often big male lions will kill a hyena if they do get too close. But 2 lionesses like this, if they are outnumbered, there is a chance that they could be chased off by hyena. A number of years ago, in 2009, 2008, 2009, I saw a pride of lions not too far from here, also in the southern part of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, where we are situated at the moment. And these lionesses were on a kill one evening, and when we got there, we could see all the commotion that had occurred that night, and hyenas had come in, challenged these lionesses, and they actually, what they did was they attacked one of the lionesses who tried to stand her ground and fight off these hyena. And with them attacking, often what hyena do is they're very clever. They'll work together. One will go for the head and try and keep the head and the teeth and the claws of the lion occupied, while the other one will come around the back and try and bite the tail area or the rump. And this particular lioness was bitten on the tail, and they bit her tail off completely. Didn't affect her in any way. She still went on and lived a long, happy life, but she did lose her tail in that altercation with hyena. So it just shows you that lionesses do have to be careful, or other animals have to be careful of hyena. James has got something interesting he'd like to show you. We'll stand by and wait for you to return.
There are 2 pigs, everybody, 2 pigs. One very large pig coming into screen now. There he is. Fine, stout fellow. And a slightly smaller pig off behind him. Now this is a roundabout where we saw, in fact it's exactly where we saw Sindile cross to the south yesterday. We're heading on to Arathusa. We've got an update on the radio. There is nothing going on there at the moment. So with any luck we'll make our own fortune on Arathusa. But I just thought it'd be very nice to relax a little bit with the piggies in the sun in the morning, especially after the sort of very unpeaceful scene of lionesses feeding on beefalo. They are lovely animals, these warthogs, and it's so interesting to me how they don't that confiding here, especially the young boars. They tend to be much more nervous than the females. Anyway, that was the pigs. Here we are at the corner between Arathusa and Djuma, obviously, and Hofmann's is down to, we often talk about Hofmann's. That's Hofmann's there, and that's where Sindile went yesterday. Shadow and Cub, we don't know where they are. Nobody's seen them. Nobody's seen their tracks. So we're going to just head on to Arathusa, and maybe we'll be lucky. We're going to go on to Arathusa right at the very south of where we're allowed to, and see if we don't pick up either tracks of Shadow or maybe young Sindile as well. This is exactly where he walked on, and he used to hang around here when he was a youngster. Hello, John. A nice one from you. Do we use trackers on any of the animals? Well, that can mean two things. Do we use human trackers? Yes, we do, certainly, especially when we're doing our TV shows. And just about all the tourism lodges out here have got trackers that sit on the front of the vehicle, and they'll often go off on foot and track animals. Do we use mechanical trackers or electronic trackers? No. But for on Sindile, this young 20-year-old male leopard, and that's simply because he's been reintroduced to the area, and so we need to be able to find him if we have to. And we get the odd ping from his collar, so we do hear about his whereabouts every so often, but we don't know all the time where he is. But none of the other animals have got tracking collars on them, and it would just, I mean, apart from being unnatural for them, I feel it would ruin some of the romance of what we do. I've no doubt one day that nostalgic view of the world will be considered totally out of date, and all of the animals out here will have subcutaneous tracking collars. There'll be like an iPad or something sitting on the front of the vehicle showing you where all the animals are, and that's how tourism will be done. I'm pretty sure that's eventually how it will happen, but that certainly, hopefully, will never happen in my lifetime. It's rather nice not knowing what's going to be around the corner. There's some beefalo. Now, we found some buffalo there. One chap, an extremely large set of horns. And while we look there, James Richard, you say, are there any examples of interspecies communication? For example, baboons and monkeys. James, yes, sometimes. Baboons and monkeys, not so much, but I think you'll find, certainly with the alarm calls, even, I mean, interspecies is one thing, but interclass, I think you'll find that many mammals will respond to bird alarm calls. They'll know exactly what they mean. Over the, evolutionary eons, they would have figured out that understanding what a monkey's alarm call means makes a big difference to their survival. So yes, I definitely think that happens. Is there some other form of communication? Maybe some subtle forms of sort of almost sixth sense communication. When one animal is alarmed, its body language changes. I've no doubt that animals can read each other's body language in the same way that you're able to read a dog's body language. So that would certainly be sort of Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio quickly. No, we're fine. And sorry, quick question. Let me just turn this down. It's starting to drive me mad. All right. So, James, in terms of then, like, would a buffalo understand an elephant's rumblings? No, I don't think it would. Would a buffalo understand a leopard's behavior were it to be stalking or were it to simply be walking past and marking territory? Yes, completely. I definitely think they would understand the difference there. So they read body language, they know of alarm, and I suppose there might be other more subtle things that they're able to pick up from each other, but I think those would be the main ones. Lovely sound of the white-browed scrub robin. And in the distance, beautiful call from the crested barbet. The alarm clock bird. Very nice. Pleasant in the sun here, Davy.
Lovely.
You still got your balaclava on? He does, yes. He looks like he's about to rob a bank. Hello, Lady Lone Wolf. You want to know what is the most dangerous out of our big five? Lady Lone Wolf, I'm going to say a few things about that question. The first is that I find the big five, the term big five, to now be fairly offensive, simply because it's an old hunting term, and it describes the animals that were supposedly most dangerous to hunt. Now, what it's done, what the marketing gurus of the world have done, is turn the big five into the be-all and end-all of African safari game viewing, which has discounted and probably detrimentally affected the conservation status of a number of other species. For example, cheetah are not part of the big five, giraffe are not part of the big five, and nor are hippo, nor are so many of the other magnificent animals that we get out here, wild dogs. And so when people come out here and say they want to see the big five, I think they've been sold a bit of a yarn by marketers. And I think it's a poor term, to be honest. But the most dangerous, well, any animal that if you attack it and corner it is going to be dangerous. From the smallest duiker, and I really mean that. I mean, I spoke to a chap who was a game capturer. You know, he did game capture for a living. The most terrifying experience he ever had was with a duiker. So a tiny little duiker which attacked him and his wife. He had to beat it off with his wife's handbag. I'm not kidding you. He had to beat a duiker off with his wife's handbag. Of the big five, they're all equally as dangerous as each other. If you corner one of them, you're going to be in trouble. Are these buffalo dangerous? A hunter will tell you that these buffalo are terribly dangerous. I guarantee you that if I got out of the car and clapped my hands now, they'd run away. And the only reason that they are dangerous to hunters is if you shoot one, or when you injure it, well, then it's going to go and lie in a bush and wait for you. And when you come after it again, well, you can get what you basically, I mean, it's pretty easy to predict what you're going to get. So that's my take on the big five. Let's head, there's another buffalo, another breeding herd of buffalo crossing the road in front of us. Unfortunately, that breeding herd of buffalo crossing the road in front of us probably lost one of their number at some stage during the night last night. They look to be in mourning. Let's head back to that hapless creature with the 2 lions and Byron.
I'm not a hapless creature, James, but we are still sitting with these 2 beautiful lionesses. I hope James has a little bit more luck on Arathusa more luck than we had yesterday afternoon down on that side. Still just the 1 lioness feeding and the other one still resting. It's really warmed up beautifully now. It's such a lovely morning. The gloves are off, the scarf is off. Brian is showing a little bit more face, which is great. I think what we are going to do is we're going to leave these lionesses now. We can always come back later. As I said, I'm sure they are going to be in this area for quite some time. Still a lot of meat there. So then I think, we may see them later this afternoon or later this drive. I'm going to head around and see what else we can find. Morning, Lex. How are you? Hello, everyone. Good. I'm going to move out for you. You can have a better view. All right. Thank you very much. Beautiful, warm morning, isn't it? Enjoy, everybody. There we go. I think that 1 lioness will feed for a little while longer and then probably also lie down. Find some shade. There's quite a bit of shade around for them. And rest for most of the day, and then when they're hungry again, get up and feed every so often. Right, we are going to head into the area of Treehouse Dam. While we do that, head over to James, who has got a live buffalo for you.
No. Everybody, here are the buffalo, and what you saw there was a bird, and David and I were doing a bird quiz while I tried to take a picture of it. I obviously failed dismally to take a picture of it because I'm the world's slowest photographer. David, it was a fork-tailed drongo. Easily recognizable by its...
Fork-tailed.
Correct, its forked tail. Well done. And he and his friends will be following this herd of buffalo, picking up the bits and pieces that they kick up into the sand. Into the sand, out of the sand as they walk. Now the reason I was distracted there and used the wrong preposition was there's a coqui francolin. Now David, that is the bird knocking about with a bright gold head over there. You see it? Isn't it beautiful? There it is. Isn't that lovely? The best francolin there is. My photographic skills are going to preclude me from taking a picture of it, but I'm going to try, and what we'll see is a golden blur. And just listen to the buffalo moving. I love the sound of them moving through the bush. I find it very comforting. Just their soft hoof falls, and their hooves on the ground, everyone, are massively important for the ecology of an area like this. We need their hooves to break up the ground, to bury the seeds of the grass. Hugely, hugely important. Ah, David, there is one that seems to have got himself caught on a tree. He's scratching his nether regions. Very nice. Yeah, well done. Not only the elephants who cause distress to the combretum trees. I imagine that combretum tree didn't wake up this morning imagining it would be looking at the undercarriage of a buffalo as it walked by in the sunshine. I think that one's just a bit careless. Now the herd seems to be settling down here, so I've no doubt they've been moving around. That's quite a new one, you know, probably only about a month or so old. And they look to be settling down. I'm just going to sneak slowly forward, and I'll show you what I mean. Hello, I walk in the rain. Very inappropriate name for this time of the year. Well, in this particular area. I walk in the rain, you say, where are the oxpeckers? They're here. I've heard them. You'll find that there's now, now is the kind of the time of day when they'll start to arrive in greater numbers. But I can see a few. We'll try and find you some now. I'm just going to try and ease into this place here and hope that they don't move. There are some oxpeckers on the back of this cow lying here. We're just going to try and move very slowly into position so that they don't freak out and run off. I'm always amazed at buffalo in this particular part of the Sabi Sands because, you know, I've watched buffalo in the Sabi Sands so close that a rather naughty tracker I once had, he slapped them on the backside before. They've been so close because they're so relaxed. But these chaps aren't quite, and they never have been up here. Don't really know why. Lovely shot there. There the oxpeckers are irritating that buffalo cow, and she seems to be settling. You see, she's lying down, and I think everyone else in this herd has got up during the early morning, walked about the place, devoured a whole lot of grass, and you will see some of them also probably eating leaves, browsing, which they wouldn't normally, and then they're going to lie down and chew the cud like this cow is about to start doing now. And Dave, yeah, if you just stick on that one that you've got there, yeah, eating the strychnos bush. Now, strychnos, of course, we know the fruit has got strychnine in the seeds. The leaves are not supposed to be not very toxic, but Eugene, our tech fellow, who's currently quaffing good wines at Betty's Bay on leave, having a good time, I hope, Eugene. He cut himself once on one of those strychnos bushes, and the cut became tremendously infected, and it festered quite horribly on his arm. And so I imagine there is poison within those branches, but the buffalo are now in a slightly desperate state, simply given the lack of grass. You can hear them going, wah. That's large amounts of methane being released into the atmosphere. Let's sneak a little bit forward. It feels a bit ridiculous to say you're going to sneak forward in a vehicle like this. Hello Donna, what a nice question from you. Sorry, the reason some of them are reacting is because there's a breeze blowing slightly sort of from behind us towards them. And they don't like that very much. Donna, you say, do buffalo mourn their losses like elephants do? The obvious answer to that, Donna, is no, they don't. Do I know that to be true? Absolutely, I do not know that to be true, Donna. I've watched fairly emotional responses from giraffe to losing youngsters. I don't see really why buffalo should be any different. So, when a mother loses a baby, they might not be as or seem as obviously mourning as the elephants do, because the elephants make a show of it, and they pick up the bones and they put them on each other's heads, and I think they have an easier way of communicating with us, so that we pick it up a lot more than we would with buffalo. But I think that the motherly response to losing youngsters, especially, whether they mourn losing adults that they're close to them, I don't know, but youngsters, I think almost certainly they feel a dreadful emotional response to losing. And I've seen it with zebra as well. It's just, why it's difficult to pick up is because they don't have facial expressions like us. So it's almost impossible. You can't read an animal's emotion from its face. You can from a dog, because it'll go like that if it wants to bite you. You can from a chimpanzee. It'll do that because it's showing you its teeth in the same way a dog does. We smile, of course, to show our teeth. Apparently it's a sort of evolutionary throwback. But our faces are so filled with muscles that express our emotions, that's how we interpret each other. But a buffalo just doesn't have the musculature. So for it to be able to express an emotion with its face is almost impossible. And so while we talk about animals as not having emotions and saying, well, we don't think that they're emotional, we have no idea. It's just very difficult for us to interpret. And I mean, you've all seen an impala's face. You can't tell if an impala is feeling happy, sad, insane, mad, deeply depressed, overwhelmed with ecstaticness. I just used the word ecstaticness, David. It's not in fact a word, is it? What was I going for? Ecstasy. There we are. Yeah. I just didn't want you to get it before me. I'm sure you would have, eventually. Alrighty, we're going to leave these buffalo, nip on to Arathusa, see if we can find some leopard tracks. And while we do that, let's head across to Byron and find out what he's got to show you.
Great that you got to see that buffalo herd with James. There's something interesting I'd like to show you quickly. That buffalo herd, though, that you've got, that James had, is possibly the herd that those lionesses may have chased because that calf definitely must have been in a herd, and we weren't too far from Arathusa, so that's potentially the herd that buffalo calf came from. Let me just show you something here, which is quite interesting. Oh, out the vehicle, stretch the legs. Can you see all this dung which has been sprayed out into this bush? Now, this is very interesting, and why I say that is, and I'm not too sure if any of our viewers has got an idea of what this is from, but let me tell you quickly, this is from hippo. And why I say it's interesting is there's no permanent body of water around very close to this area. Just shows you how far a hippo can move when they're looking for food. What they do, and the reason they do this and spray this dung all over a bush, it's territorial scent marking. So what a hippo will do is be walking along looking for some grass to feed, and they come and then they don't quite do this. They shake their tails, and as the tail spins or flicks from side to side, it sprays the dung over the bush, and that's to ensure that the dung is then put all over to scent mark their territory. And then the hippo, and I can see the tracks over here, it continued along the road and probably went off looking for some grass to feed on. So that is very interesting to see all the way out here. Just shows you the distances they can travel when it is very, very dry. Brian, I hope you weren't laughing at my hippo attempt, my scent marking attempt. So I didn't quite get that name. It sounds like Stade Beck asked about animal impressions and what animal impressions I can do, because most of the other presenters are able to do some animal impressions quite well. Trying to think now, what animal impressions can I do? I think I can do a lion roar. Perhaps. Let me see if I can try impersonate a lion for you. So we heard those lions calling last night, so that's why it popped into my head. And it starts off, and it goes something like this. That's a lion in the distance, I think. I'll try to think of other impersonations that I can do of animals. We're now just on our southern boundary. It's the sun is out in full force. It's going to be a beautiful warm day today, and this just with this cool breeze in the air, fresh air. It's amazing. Really, really beautiful morning. Fantastic to be out here and to be able to show you all of this. We've had a great morning with those lions and the giraffe. I was really happy to see the giraffe. We don't get many giraffe moving through these areas. Every now and then they do. It is quite thick, and they also they prefer feeding on certain trees, especially a lot of the acacia that have got good nutrients in the trees, in their leaves. But you do get a few giraffe moving through every now and then, and it was great to see that one, especially because we had the question about giraffe this morning. So James Richard asked a question about our Facebook chat, and on that chat I mentioned that I'd travelled to Australia and seen one or two zoos in Australia while I was out there. And James Richard would like to know what other destinations I've travelled to and areas I have been. James Richard, I've been quite fortunate. I've travelled a fair amount into different areas. I've been to America when I was very young, though. I'd love to go back and I want to see, it's funny, but I want to see the big cities. I want to see New York again and maybe Chicago and Las Vegas, maybe just because it's so different and I'm not used to it. So, to see those places would be great. But I've been to London, been to Ireland. Recently, I went to Croatia and Greece, which was very beautiful, very different. So I have been lucky enough to travel around a bit. But I would like to travel some more. Speaking about traveling, James has been traveling on Arathusa, and I think he has a jackal for you.
Now, very lucky we are indeed, everybody. A side-striped jackal which was lurking just behind a bush. Oh, it's having a wee. Very nice. Obviously the male of the little pair that lives around here at the southern end of the Arathusa airstrip. Isn't he lovely? And he's relaxed a bit. I didn't nearly run him over, but we came round a bush and he was right close by. He was lying in the shade like I think he's going to do now. And he went scuttling off and then he's relaxed. His black-backed cousin tends to be quite a lot more relaxed than he is. Just about all the time. Much more confiding, much less nervous. And he's just decided that he should turn his fright into something useful and do a bit of a marking. And unfortunately he's gone now south of where we're allowed to be. So while we can film him in there, we cannot get closer to him. But Dave can. Well done, David. Very nice. He's in very good condition. You can see he's got lovely winter fur, nice fat belly, so he's clearly finding enough in the way of rabbits and birds and the odd bit of fruit and maybe some scavenged meat. What a great sighting. I'm just wondering if he isn't going to fetch up with his partner. They're not quite as fastidious about maintaining their pair bonds, I don't think, than the black-backed version. But there should be another one around here, and Brent has definitely seen another one around here. There he goes. So, I mean, the markings are similar, and if you didn't know the difference between the two, and if you hadn't seen them both, I think it would be very easy to confuse them. So, Annie, I would be surprised if there were more black-backed jackals, at least if there were more side-striped jackals in that area than there are black-backed. I would have thought in Mashatu there would have been more black-backed. If you look, can you see him, Dave? I don't see him either. Let me just quickly show you the difference, Annie, in my book, my rather special mammal book, and J for jackal. I might just leaf through. Here we go. So, there, that's called the common jackal, they've called it there. Let me just turn the page. Okay, yeah, no, these pictures are really not very good, but I can give you an idea here. In fact, they're slightly ridiculous, mainly because they come from all over the continent. So, sorry, let me get my earpiece back in so I can hear what's going on. So there's the black-backed, and there's the side-striped. Now that, if you were to see the animal we've just seen and look in your field guide to see what it was, I don't think you'd ever identify it as this sort of fairly rodent-like looking creature. Anyway, that's what we were looking at. But what you can see here is that they've both got that saddle on the back, and on the side-striped, it's just a lot paler. The black-backed, it is black and then with silver sort of overlaid on top. The big thing, Annie, to look out for is that white tip to the tail. All the side-striped jackals have got a white tip to the tail, which the blackback do not. So if it's got a white tip to the tail, you can be almost 100% sure that it is a side-striped jackal. Canis adustus. Okay. Right, let us press on from here. Very nice. Hello Aaron in New Zealand. You're wondering about the average litter size. The average litter size of the side-striped jackal, Aaron, is I think 3 or 4. Stand by. It doesn't say in this particular book. I'm going to go with 3 or 4 little pups. That's certainly what it is for the black-backed, and I imagine it's probably the same. So they'll be smaller than wild dog litters, and I suspect it can probably be up to 10, but I would imagine 3 or 4, maybe 5 is about the average. So slightly more than the cats. I will check that up for you though. I'm not sure exactly. Margaret, you're in Kansas and you want to know if those jackals are from the dog or the cat family. Margaret, they're unquestionably dogs. They're actually more closely related to domestic dogs and wolves than are the African wild dog. And so I think there have actually been instances of interbreeding between domestic dogs and jackals. So they are very much dogs. Canids, or from the canid family, much the same as wolves. So they're nothing like cats at all. And Jim, I was just describing the diet of that jackal and saying, you know, it's probably filling itself up with a bit of a scavenged food, some birds, if they can catch ground-dwelling birds, maybe the odd lizard, perhaps some fruit if there is any, and maybe, if it's very lucky, a scrub hare. I think there are probably quite a few scrub hares. You say, how much do they scavenge versus hunt or forage on their own? I think you will find, percentage-wise, a side-striped jackal would probably catch, I would say, about 80% of its own food, 20% scavenging. Byron has got a very short-tailed eagle to show you.
That is correct, James. We do have a very short-tailed eagle. Now, I'm going to ask our viewers back home if they have any idea what this eagle is. It's a beautiful eagle. And every now and then when he turns to the right, you can see that very beautiful red face. Look there. You can just see that red face. One of my favorite eagles. A very, very beautiful bird. See if we can get some answers from any of you, and if who knows what eagle this is, or if you can hazard a guess. Now these eagles like to fly very low, and they are scavengers. They do get to carcasses very quickly, often before vultures do. And I have seen vultures and other eagles follow these eagles when they are leading them to a carcass. And then once the vultures come in and start feeding these birds, then generally move off. They're a bit smaller than a big vulture, and they don't like to get into a scrap. So they fly very low, they try to get to a carcass quickly, scavenge as much as they can, and then they'll move off. So our first answer is from Claude's Gate, and you are 100% correct. This is a Batalier eagle. Very, very beautiful, beautiful eagle. Got a rusty brown back, black wings with a bit of white on them. That red face, there's that red face again. As it turns, the light is perfect now. This is really great for photography. You can really get some nice pictures of this eagle up in that tree. Nice open branch. I've got a very rounded head. You see that? Very, very round, quite a large head. If you look closely at the bottom of the wings, and James mentioned it being a short-tailed eagle, they have got very, very short tails, and the tips of the wings actually extend beyond the tail. So those feathers that we can see hanging below the branch are actually the tips of the wings. They are not the tail. Always great to see birds of prey. Any birds, I mean, I do really enjoy any bird, but these birds of prey are just are magnificent, and sitting out in the open like this, probably warming himself up a little bit. Really wonderful. That is nice. I've not seen a bateleur perched like that for quite some time. That was great. Really nice sighting of the bateleur. Let us carry on and see what else we can find. So we've got a question about, and I think it's from X-Blade, the size of this eagle and whether or not it is larger or smaller than the bald eagle. Now, I'm not entirely sure the size of the bald eagle, but my understanding is the bald eagle is a very large eagle. This is not a particularly big eagle, so I am assuming, and I'm almost 100% certain, that this bateleur, oh, look at it ruffling its feathers there, that this bateleur is much smaller than a bald eagle. Much smaller than a bald eagle. Bald eagle also hunts a lot of fish, if I am correct, and will go down to water and try and haul fish out of water and around water's edges. So the wingspan needs to be very large for it to get off the ground and carry prey up into trees. I've not seen bateleur carrying prey up into the trees. So that would also cause the bald eagle to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more powerful. That is a really beautiful view. Oh, look, there it goes. You can see the lack of tail, and have a look. Watch how it rocks from side to side. Brian, you are amazing. You are amazing to be able to keep up with that bateleur. But look how it rocks from side to side. They've got a very uneven or uneasy flight pattern. And the reason for that is because of that short tail. Makes it a bit more difficult for them to balance, but it gives them quicker maneuverability when they are flying low to be able to get to carcasses if they are scavenging. But you could see they've got that very distinct rocking movement while they are flying. And they're very easy to identify while they are flying in the sky. He posed perfectly for us there for a while. Nice to see them take off and fly. Especially when I'm taking photographers out or on safari. I really enjoy photography too. And it's sightings like that we really love, because when you are... Sorry, I just thought I saw something here quickly. Give me a second. I just want to jump off and see what I saw. But as I was saying, with photographers, a sighting like that is wonderful, because as the bird takes off, you first got it perching, and then as it takes off, you get those beautiful wings opening up. Great for photography. Okay. Just saw a bit of dung over there. It's not very fresh, and unfortunately it's a very small piece. I don't think I'd be able to show it to you, but it's from a porcupine. The reason I know it's porcupine is I can see there's a lot of root and bark and plant material in the dung. It's not very big, it's about this size. The ground isn't great, I can't see the tracks, but I can see by the dung it is definitely a porcupine, maybe from a night or two ago. It does look a little bit dry already. While we are carrying on looking for some wildlife, James has got a beautiful, beautiful antelope for you.
Now, many of you, of course, have seen the male antelope, the male Nyala, doing their dressage dance around each other, but very few of you will know that Nyala are, in fact, adept show jumpers as well as dressage sort of exponents, able to do multiple equine disciplines, or equestrian disciplines. And what we've been watching here was the female and the male. She was being chased by the male, and they were jumping over that log, sort of in a circle. They would jump over it, and then go around the bush and come back and jump over it again. It was rather amusing to see. Unfortunately, now they've stopped doing that. The male is behind that bush there, and I think he's chasing the female. Well, I don't know why he would be chasing her, because if she's going to be pregnant, I'm pretty sure she would have been pregnant already, because the breeding season is roughly the same as that of the impala. I don't know if you can see, Dave, this one to the right-hand side. I'm going to sneak forward. She keeps yawning. Obviously had a heavy night last night. It was a Thursday. There, that one that's browsing there. She keeps opening her mouth and yawning. See if she does it again, because of course all mammals, I think, yawn. The funniest mammal to watch yawning is a dwarf mongoose. It is hilarious to watch a dwarf mongoose yawn. I don't know why, but it is. There, here we go. That's the male there. Maybe we'll see some mating here. Should be unusual. That's why he was chasing her. She's much younger than the adult cows that are around him, though. Dirty old man. He's definitely interested. And he's just, I don't know if you noticed there, everybody, he did that little flare. He's doing that phlegm and grimace. He's testing whether she's ready to mate. And perhaps decided that she's not quite as ready as he thought at first. Brilliantly coloured, don't you think? He's an exceptionally clever colour. But so are his cohorts. Let's go back a little bit. I think they're the most beautiful antelope. They're my favourite. Hello. Don't panic. You just want to look. No touch, just look. Sighing, of course, because that was such a lovely photographic opportunity. Naturally, I missed it. Let's go back again behind the quarry bush. And there's also a little flock of guinea fowl knocking about on the ground. And everything, I say this just about every day at this time, things are warming up and calming down. That expectation of the early morning is sort of dissipating into the settled peace of the mid-morning. David, I'm going to take a world-class photograph now. Yes, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you feel your day would be immeasurably improved by it. Hello, Aaron. Nice question from you. utterly horrendous photograph. You say, what is the size difference between this and a mountain Nyala? Well, a mountain Nyala occurs in Ethiopia, and I will get its mass for you immediately. The mass of one of these, a big bull, is about, I think he's about 130 kilograms. The mass of a female is probably just shy of that. Let me go and check. The tragelaphid antelope. Very famous, magnificent family. Mountain Nyala weighs up to 300 kilograms a male, and so that is what? That's 660 pounds. And a female up to 200 kilograms, which is about 440 pounds, so that's quite a lot. And let me just confirm that I'm correct about our Nyala. Yes, male up to 140 kilograms here. So almost half, only half the size, and in some cases less than half the size of a mountain Nyala. Unlikely to see a mountain Nyala here. Maybe when we go to Ethiopia. David, you getting warming up there?
A little bit, yeah.
Dave's taking off a layer or two, everyone. It's not an elephant sitting on the back of the car. Matthew, you're in Michigan and you want to know, it's actually a discussion that we could have for days, Matthew, but I won't keep you for days. You want to know if animals will mate even if it's not breeding season, and why, and under what sort of conditions. Well, Matthew, it's interesting because these animals will not mate unless it's breeding season, and that's because the females don't ovulate. They don't come into heat. They're not ready to mate unless it is the correct breeding season. Now, the reason for that, of course, or the reason they only mate at one time of the year, is so that when their babies are born, there's sufficient for them to eat. Now, in species where that isn't the case, and our own species is a classic example of that, human beings, there is no obvious mating time with human beings. And that's because what estrus is hidden. So I know that sounds a little bit sort of animalistic to say, but with human beings, estrus is hidden. It means that you can't tell when a female human being, just by looking at her, is receptive to mating or not, or is receptive or is able to conceive. Now, on most animals, you can. And it's a kind of continuum. So, for example, if a Nyala is an estrus and she's ready to breed, she'll urinate, and the male will be able to tell. He'll smell the urine, he'll be able to pick it up, and then that sets off a trigger, which will induce. He will then prepare himself to mate, and they will mate. And that happens the same with lions, and it happens with leopards, and it happens with just about all the animals out here. In the case of a baboon, when a baboon's ready to mate, what she does is her entire back end turns pink. Now they will mate. She will only mate when she's ready to mate. Then she won't mate with a male, or she won't conceive unless she's ready to mate. But she will mate with a male. And baboons mate with each other all the time. Now, the closer you get to human beings, from, say, Nyala, so we got to baboons, when you get to chimpanzees, that estrus is completely hidden. So a male has absolutely no idea when a female is receptive to mating or not, and it's the same with human beings. And so, in a very kind of long-winded way, yes, some animals will mate out of mating season, because mating season is basically when the females are prepared to conceive, but most will not, the primates being a very notable exception to that. Nice question, thank you for that. The Nyalas have headed off into this very peaceful morning. I took 3 or 4 utterly horrendous pictures, which will be deleted on my arrival home. All right, let's go across to Byron. He is lost.
great that James got to show you that in Yala. That's one of my favorite antelope in the area. Very beautiful with those prominent white stripes down the body. And I understand the male was trying to chase the female. Isn't that the story of our lives? We have been driving around in search for any activity. We had a daker which stood for about a minute and ran off just before we could show you. They are very shy little antelope, and they don't hang around for too long. What we're going to do is try head towards Weirtella waterhole and see if there's any activity around there. Maybe some good bird life. So Betty has asked me a question, and she would like to know what animal I think James resembles the most. Oh dear, this is playing with fire, Betty, I'm not sure. Okay, let me think. James... I don't know if you heard that, I think you did it. Brian thinks a crowned lapwing. So... James is built like a steenbok, very slim and agile. But I'm trying to think. He is. To be honest, I think James resembles an owl, and I'll tell you why. So I think the thin legs, definitely, but he's got a very calm nature about him most of the time, and James is very wise. He's one of the most intelligent people I know, and he's a good friend of mine. But I think he resembles an owl. You know, he kind of sits in. You can ask him something. He'll give you advice, and then he. I just see, like we saw that giant eagle owl the other day, and when they sit and they blink very slowly, and James often does that, so maybe it looks like an owl or resembles an owl. Wise older James. You need to ask James a question about his touch rugby experience with me a few years ago. James is at Arathusa waterhole now. Why don't you go have a look and see what he has got there?
It's a bit of a depressing sign here, everybody. We've got, of course, hippopotamus there that you can see, and all around it, all those kind of snaky bits in the water. Well, those are catfish. And they're in the last bit of water. It's not very deep. In fact, it's pretty shallow in there. And I think they're probably having a dreadful, dreadful time. Look at them all. I mean, there are hundreds of them slithering about. It's a boiling cauldron of fairly miserable catfish and one hippopotamus. Yuck. Oh, well, that is the way it is with droughts. Can't believe how full this dam was when I started, just over a year ago. But them days is over. Them balmy days is now done. Very nice of Byron to call me an owl. I like owls very much. I'm not sure the reasons for his calling me an owl are necessarily very complimentary. Byron, I suppose I would consider a buffalo, actually. I'm trying to think. He's a fairly large fellow, you know. He's quite well muscled. He's been known to charge in every so often. Good morning. Do you? Thank you very much. Please keep watching us every day and tell all your friends and even your enemies. Enjoy.
Have a good day, guys.
That's very sweet. It's always nice to see people who watch us. So Byron is a buffalo, I think. Yes, muscly fellow. He likes to charge in every so often, sometimes not in the most considered fashion. There he is. You see? If you've ever seen Byron on a rugby field, you'll know exactly what I mean. He turns into a raging buffalo. Byron has also worked quite hard at cultivating an aura of sort of certainly when he was younger, not anymore. When he was younger, he cultivated this aura of macho-ness that he liked to cultivate, and he didn't like to let on that he actually has quite an amazing general knowledge. He liked to play dumb every so often, didn't like to appear too intelligent in front of people, lest they think he was intellectual. That herd of buffalo that we saw earlier is now coming down towards the water. They're coming in a cloud of dust. We'll just move down in front here and have a look at them, and then I think we'll start to make our way for bacon and eggs. David, bacon and eggs today? Yes, very nice, delicious. All right, let's go back to, we're going to wait here for the buffalo. Let's go back to Byron and a monkey herd. A monkey herd? Troop of monkeys.
Thank you for calling me a buffalo, James, or or comparing me to a buffalo. So we have got a monkey. It just looks like one vervet monkey, not velvet, vervet. He's just in the top of the tree at the moment, kind of hiding from us. Only he's by himself. I don't see any others around, which is quite strange, I'm sure. But you do get sentinels within a troop of monkeys like this. They're probably one having a look out while the rest are feeding somewhere on the ground behind us, and maybe he's come to have a look to see if it is safe at the water hole for him to come down and drink. They do come down to drink at water. Let's see if I can reposition quickly, see if we can't have a quick glimpse of him. Up in this tree. I can try my monkey impersonation, my vervet monkey impersonation. That's an alarm call of a vervet monkey. There it is. There he goes. Oh, all the way up there. Jumping around there, you can see him clearly. Bit of banging behind us. It's just, I think they're doing a bit of maintenance at the Vuyatela Lodge. Just fixing something there quickly. This monkey still hiding from us. We're going to move on from the water hole now and go and move around a little bit, see if we can't find something else. While we do that, James has a large herd of animals which resemble me.
Here we are with a large herd of Byron walking past. I'm sure Byron's parents would be too pleased that I'd compared him with a buffalo, but they are rather good animals, I think. Very nice. They're all going down to have a little bit of a drink now. As the heat starts to build, and as I've said to you, of course, many times before, they do need to drink often if they're going to survive the dry season, and that's not so much because the water, helps them with the dryness. The water really does help their digestive systems. This is wonderful. Brilliant sighting of buffalo. They're really coming quite close to us now, and like I said to you earlier, they don't really like that. Fantastic, kicking up the dust. Marvellous. couple of them running. Be nice to see some lions, obviously, sort of chasing them from behind, but I mean, this isn't bad. Delightful sound of the angle grinder at Arathusa, infusing the Lowveld morning. These lodges, of course, have many things, many repairs and things that they have to do all the time, and so that's perfectly normal. Just in case you were wondering what that sound was. Hello, Kim in South Carolina. Nice one from you. You say, how many people live in the areas that we traverse? Kim, none on the actual reserve, but outside the reserve, many. There are about 4.5 million that live on the borders of the Kruger National Park, but no villages inside the park other than staff and sort of conservation staff and tourism staff and that sort of thing, and administration staff. But there are no actual sort of permanent settlements, if you like, within the Kruger National Park. They look a bit morose and forlorn, I must say. But you know, they're maintaining condition quite well. Buffalo will start to lose condition towards the end of the dry season. And I mean, some of them you can see their hips already. And so you'll be able to pick up, when they start to lose their condition badly, you'll be able to pick it up immediately. They are starting to look a little bit ropey at this stage. And you can tell that from the back hips sticking out. That chap looking at you on the right hand side of your screen is going to have a very impressive set of horns one day. They're very large for a fellow of his size. And some of them are stopping to look at us. Others have made it down to the water. Let me just flick round. Just going to reverse slightly. Try not to freak them buffaloes out. And then we can see them going down to have a drink. I'm very glad I don't have to drink this water. The elephants will almost certainly reject this water out of hand because it's full of catfish dung, catfish detritus, buffalo dung. Now Donald, very nice question from you about the catfish and whether or not the animals will start to take advantage of them. Yes, there will be a few, certainly, Donald, and birds largely. I think you're going to find a big dissension eventually of marabou storks are going to come into this area, possibly some fish eagles, and I think also once it gets really dry, hyenas will go in there and take them out. You might even find young leopards who are really hungry going in there and taking the odd catfish out. Very peaceful, but for the angle grinder. Yeah, well, so it goes. Alright everyone, I think we're going to leave these beefies to go down to the water and have a drink, and we're going to head for home to have our breakfast. See quickly, I just want to leave before the end of drive because I want to see if there aren't perhaps some tracks of Shadow or Sindile on our way out. I've taken rather longer than I'd hoped to get to this area. Alright, while we do that, let's head across to Byron, find out what beefy Byron has managed to find.
I have found something for you. I'm just trying to get to it. There's a road. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Wonderful to see a big herd of buffalo with James, though. It's always great. Let's have a look here. Moved off, just off to the left. We have a beautiful elephant bull just moving around by himself. There he goes. Oh, he's going back to the main road. Brian, let's ride around quickly and see if we can't get a view on the other side. Seems very, very intent. Just got a glimpse of him through there. Very intent on moving through this area quite quickly. We might get him crossing. I don't know if he's crossed already. No, there he goes. Straight ahead. Oh, walking very quickly. How's that for timing? Fantastic. Oh, let's just see where he's going. It doesn't look like he wants to hang around for us for too long. There he is, just off to the left. There he goes. Walking quite quickly. Possibility is heading into an area where you can find some water. But it is still quite far from the Vuyatela waterhole. So unless he knows of another smaller waterhole where he could potentially find something to drink. Nevertheless, always great to see an elephant passing through. Just shows you how quickly they can disappear into the thickets. You look at that. I mean, across the road and he's gone. If you were driving past now, I doubt you would be able to see him. I mean, I can't see him now. Just getting a bit of movement there. And he's gone. But what a nice surprise. Beautiful elephant bull. It didn't look like a big dominant bull, younger bull. But nevertheless, he's on his way. Let's move up onto the clearings of quarantine and see what is around there. Maybe have some antelope or something out in the open. Not too far from that area. Beautiful marula trees up around this clearing. It's a pity it's not summer. I'd love to go and pick up the marula fruit and eat them in summer. They really are quite tasty. That's why I think animals like those elephants, they love them. They feed on those constantly. Let's see if we can spot anything around here. Nice open clearing. I'm sure in summer you get a lot of animals frequenting this area. Oh, there we go. 3 large bovine. There's some buffalo. Not quite as many as you had with the herd with James. But always nice to see these buffalo. These are 4. 4 old buffalo bulls just enjoying the sun and ruminating. If you have a look at that big one, especially to the back, the back one, there we go, Brian, that one, ruminating, enjoying the last bit of food. Well, it's been a fantastic morning with all of you. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So nice to be able to see the lion, elephant. It's a nice cool morning, warming up beautifully. Really, really great. So thank you very much to Brian and the thumb. What a great morning. Always great to drive around with you. Thank you to the ladies in FC, and thank you for all the questions this morning. We will see you this afternoon. Have a wonderful Saturday, everyone. Let's cross over to James, and he will say goodbye for the morning.
We're just leaving Arathusa now, everybody, and I have not found any evidence of leopards. So maybe we'll try the northern reaches today. I may head back to Cheetah Plains. In fact, we might send Byron to Cheetah Plains to explore this afternoon. It was just the most wonderful afternoon we had there yesterday with all those elephants and zebras. Maybe some deer will pop out and maybe he won't. But what we can be sure about is that the afternoon will be very beautiful and well worth a visit. And until then, we are going to be enjoying our time at home. Today for me is a photograph deleting day. It's always a slightly dejecting time of my life. All right, thank you, David, for your efforts today. Big thank you to all of you for your chats. We had a lovely time warming our mouths as we spoke. And of course to beefy Buffalo Byron, and being filmed by the not so beefy Brian. Thank you to them. And the final control of Kirsten and Rebecca. Until 3 o'clock this afternoon, stay safe and happy wherever you are. Bye bye.